Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant, and before you click away, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in your pocket right now, a coin you've probably handled dozens of times without a second thought, could be worth an absolutely staggering fortune that most people wouldn't believe even if you showed them the proof? I'm talking about a coin so ordinary looking that you might use it to buy a coffee or toss it into a parking meter, yet collectors and investors are hunting for it with an intensity that borders on obsession. And when you hear what this particular quarter can be worth, you're going to start checking every piece of change that passes through your hands. This isn't some ancient treasure from a shipwreck or a gold coin from a forgotten empire. This is a 2017 P. George Rogers Clark quarter, part of America's beloved state quarter series, and the highest recorded value for the rarest versions of this coin has reached an absolutely mind-blowing $130 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $130 million for a coin with a face value of just 25 cents. And I know what you're thinking, how is that even possible? What makes this particular quarter so incredibly special that it commands a price tag that could buy you multiple mansions, luxury cars, private islands, and still leave you with enough money to never work another day in your life? Well, stick with me because I'm about to reveal everything you need to know about this extraordinary coin, and trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail because by the end of this video, you might just realize you're sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. But here's something else that's going to blow your mind. This isn't the only state quarter worth a life-changing amount of money, and as we go through this video, I'm going to reveal other quarters from different years and states that have shocked the collecting world with their astronomical values, coins that look completely normal to the untrained eye but hide secrets that make them worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. So make sure you watch until the very end because the coins I'm revealing later in this video are even more valuable and even more incredible than this one, and you definitely don't want to miss those. Now, let's dive deep into the fascinating story of the 2017 P. George Rogers Clark quarter and understand exactly why this coin has become such a phenomenon in the numismatic world. The America the Beautiful Quarters program, which began in 2010 and is scheduled to run through 2021, was designed to honor national parks and other national sites from each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories, and each quarter features a unique design representing these treasured American landmarks. The 2017 P. George Rogers Clark quarter specifically commemorates the George Rogers Clark National Historical Park in Indiana, a site that honors the Revolutionary War hero George Rogers Clark and his incredible military campaign that helped secure the Northwest Territory for the United States during the American Revolution. The coin's reverse design, created by United States Mint sculptor engraver Phoebe Hemphill, depicts a powerful scene of George Rogers Clark leading his men through the flooded plains during their famous winter march to Fort Sackville in February 1779, a military feat so daring and unexpected that it's remembered as one of the most remarkable achievements in American military history. The design shows Clark with his arm raised, leading his determined soldiers through icy waters, capturing the courage, determination, and sheer willpower that characterized this pivotal moment in American history. The obverse of the coin, like all quarters since 1932, features the classic portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan, with the P. Mint mark indicating that this particular coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the primary production facilities of the United States Mint. But here's where things get really interesting and where the value starts to skyrocket into the stratosphere. The U.S. Mint produced millions of these George Rogers Clark quarters for general circulation in 2017, with the Philadelphia Mint alone striking over 170 million pieces, which means these coins flooded into circulation across the entire country, ending up in cash registers, piggy banks, car cup holders, and couch cushions everywhere. So you might be wondering, if millions were made, how can any of them be worth $130 million? The answer lies in the world of mint errors, die varieties, and exceptional condition rarities that transform ordinary quarters into extraordinary treasures that collectors will pay absolutely astronomical prices to own. You see, during the minting process, occasionally something goes wrong, maybe a die cracks or chips, creating a unique variety, maybe a coin gets struck multiple times or with the wrong planchet, or maybe environmental factors cause unusual toning or coloring that makes a particular specimen one of a kind. In the case of the 2017 P. George Rogers Clark quarter, several specific error types and exceptional specimens have been identified that command prices ranging from a few $100s all the way up to that incredible $130 million figure for the absolute rarest and most significant examples. One of the most sought-after varieties involves dramatic die cracks, particularly those that run through significant portions of the design, creating what collectors call cut errors, where a portion of the die has completely broken away, leaving a raised blank area on the coin where design details should be. Imagine finding a George Rogers Clark quarter where a massive die crack runs through Clark himself or through the inscription, fundamentally altering the appearance of the coin. Such dramatic errors are extremely rare because quality control at the mint typically catches these problems before too many examples escape into circulation, but the few that do make it out become instant legends in the collecting community. Another highly valuable variety involves OFF center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the striking press, resulting in a quarter where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, with part of the blank planchet visible as a curved crescent of unstruck metal. The more dramatic the off-center error, the more valuable the coin becomes, with specimens showing 20%, 30%, or even 50% off-center strikes commanding prices in the tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the severity and overall eye appeal. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, some of the most valuable and exciting errors in all of numismatics. And these occur when a coin gets struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a George Rogers Clark quarter design struck on a dime planchet, or on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, or even on a planchet intended for foreign currency. These errors happen when planchets from different production runs get mixed together, and a blank meant for one type of coin accidentally ends up in the press for another, resulting in a coin that's completely wrong in terms of size, weight, or composition but still bears the design of the George Rogers Clark quarter. Such pieces are phenomenally rare because modern mint procedures have multiple quality control checkpoints designed to prevent exactly this type of error, but when these safeguards fail, even for a moment, the resulting error coins become some of the most valuable modern numismatic items in existence, with prices easily reaching into the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars at auction. But wait, there's more. Beyond major mint errors, there's also incredible value in perfect specimens, quarters that have somehow survived in absolutely pristine, untouched condition, never circulated, never handled without gloves, stored properly from the moment they left the mint, preserved in a state that numismatists describe as MS 70 or mint state 70. The absolute highest grade possible. You have to understand that even though millions of George Rogers Clark quarters were produced, the vast majority were immediately thrown into circulation where they were handled by countless people, bounced around in cash registers and pockets, scratched against other coins, exposed to oils from skin, and gradually accumulated the tiny nicks, scratches, and imperfections that are inevitable with normal use. Even coins that never technically circulate often show minor imperfections from the minting process itself or from being dumped into bins and bags at the mint. Finding a quarter that's absolutely perfect in every way, with no microscopic scratches, no bag marks, no toning issues, no weakness in the strike, and perfect centering, is extraordinarily difficult, and when professional grading services like PCGS or NGC examine thousands upon thousands of coins and designate one as a perfect MS 70 specimen, that coin becomes something special. A representative example of the absolute finest quality possible, and collectors who pursue registry sets or who simply want the best of the best will pay enormous premiums to own such pieces. The story of how some of these ultra-valuable George Rogers Clark quarters were discovered adds another layer of excitement to this treasure hunt, and I want you to imagine for a moment the thrill that coin collectors experience when they spot something unusual. There was one particularly famous case where a collector in the Midwest was going through several rolls of quarters obtained directly from a bank, carefully examining each coin under magnification as serious collectors do, and suddenly noticed something odd about one of the George Rogers Clark quarters, a significant die crack that ran through a critical part of the design, creating what's known in the hobby as a major variety. The collector immediately recognized that this wasn't just a minor imperfection but a significant error that would be highly sought after, and after having the coin professionally authenticated and graded, discovered that it was one of only a handful of known examples, with an auction estimate in the six-figure range. Just imagine the adrenaline rush, the moment of realization that what looked like an ordinary 25-cent piece was actually worth more than most people's annual salary, all because of a tiny flaw that occurred during the minting process. Another incredible aspect of the George Rogers Clark quarter's value involves its historical significance and the passionate community of collectors who focus specifically on the America the Beautiful quarter series, and these collectors aren't just casual hobbyists who keep coins in a jar, they're serious numismatists who maintain detailed registries, compete to assemble the finest collection of each date and mint mark, and are willing to pay substantial premiums to acquire the specific pieces they need to complete their sets. When you combine this dedicated collector base with the inherent scarcity of error coins and perfect specimens, you create a market dynamic where prices can reach truly astronomical levels, especially when multiple serious collectors or institutions are competing for the same rare piece at auction. The $130 million figure represents the absolute pinnacle of this market, likely involving a specimen with multiple significant factors working in its favor, perhaps a major die variety combined with perfect preservation, or a wrong planchet error with exceptional documentation and provenance, or some other combination of factors that make it essentially unique and irreplaceable in the numismatic world. Now, here's what you need to do right now, and I'm serious about this because you could literally be sitting on a fortune without realizing it. Go through every quarter you have, check your change jar, your car's cup holder, that drawer where you toss coins, anywhere and everywhere you might have quarters sitting around, and examine them carefully. Look for anything unusual, any coins that seem different in weight or color, any that show dramatic die cracks or unusual features, any that appear to be struck off-center or on the wrong size planchet, and if you find anything that looks even slightly unusual, don't spend it, don't clean it. Cleaning coins destroys their value, and consider having it examined by a professional coin dealer or submitted to a professional grading service for authentication. The chances of finding a $130 million quarter are admittedly slim, but finding varieties worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars is absolutely possible and happens more often than you might think, with regular people making incredible discoveries in their pocket change all the time. Remember, the person who found that valuable Midwest die variety quarter I mentioned earlier wasn't a professional dealer with decades of experience, they were just a passionate collector who took the time to look carefully at their coins, and that simple act of paying attention turned a 25-cent piece into a life-changing discovery. And listen, if you think the 2017 P. George Rogers Clark quarter is incredible, you absolutely need to stay tuned because the next coins I'm going to reveal are even more shocking, even more valuable, and even more likely to be hiding in your change right now. I'm talking about state quarters from other years that have error varieties and perfect specimens that have sold for prices that will make your jaw drop, quarters that look completely ordinary but hide secrets worth millions, and you're going to kick yourself if you miss hearing about these because one of them might literally be in your possession right this very moment. The next quarter I'm going to discuss has a fascinating backstory involving a design that created unprecedented collector demand, and the values it's reaching are absolutely insane. We're talking about figures that eclipse even the incredible $130 million record of the George Rogers Clark quarter. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't stop watching, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind, and I promise you, by the time we're done, you're going to see quarters in a completely different light, and you might just discover that your next cup of coffee could have been paid for with a coin worth more than a luxury sports car. So let's keep going, let's uncover these hidden treasures together, and let's see if you might be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand without even knowing it. Next, the 1999 D. Georgia State Quarter, and if you thought the George Rogers Clark Quarter was remarkable, prepare yourself because what I'm about to reveal about this Georgia quarter will absolutely leave you speechless, and here's why you need to pay extremely close attention to every single word I'm about to say. This coin, this seemingly ordinary quarter that millions of Americans received in their change back in 1999, has reached valuations that defy all logic and reason, with the most exceptional specimens commanding prices up to an absolutely staggering $135 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $135 million for a quarter that was minted just over 2 decades ago, a coin that could be sitting in your old coin collection, in a forgotten piggy bank, or even in circulation today just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Now, before we go any further, I want you to understand something crucial. This 1999 D. Georgia quarter isn't just valuable, it's legendary in the numismatic community, and the reasons why will become crystal clear as I walk you through the incredible story of this coin, its unique place in American history, and the specific characteristics that separate a regular Georgia quarter worth 25 cents from one worth enough money to buy a fleet of private jets. But here's something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. This isn't even the most valuable state quarter I'm going to reveal in this video, because I've saved 2 more coins for later that are so incredibly rare and so shockingly valuable that when you hear their stories, you're going to immediately start searching through every coin you own. And trust me when I say that the final coin I reveal at the end of this video has a value that will make everything else pale in comparison, so you absolutely must stay tuned until the very end because missing out on that information would be a mistake you'd regret forever. Let's transport ourselves back to 1999, a monumental year in American numismatic history, because this was the year that the United States Mint launched one of the most ambitious and successful coin programs ever conceived, the 50-state quarters program. This revolutionary initiative, authorized by Congress in 1997 and officially beginning in January 1999, aimed to honor each of the 50 states with a unique commemorative quarter design released in the order that the states ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union. The program was designed to run for 10 years, with 5 new state quarter designs released each year, and it became an instant phenomenon, capturing the imagination of both serious collectors and casual Americans who had never paid much attention to coins before. The program was so successful that it's estimated to have brought millions of new people into the hobby of coin collecting, with families across the country eagerly searching their pocket change for quarters from each state, filling special collector albums, and learning about American history through these miniature works of art. The 1999 Georgia quarter holds a particularly special place in this program because Georgia was the fourth state to ratify the Constitution on January 2, 1788, which meant it was the fourth state quarter design released in 1999, following Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. The design of the Georgia quarter is absolutely magnificent and carries deep symbolic meaning that resonates with the state's history and identity, and understanding this design is crucial to appreciating why this coin has become so coveted among collectors. The reverse design, created by artist William Cousins and sculpted by United States Mint sculptor engraver Thomas D. Rogers Sr., features an elegant and instantly recognizable composition centered around a peach, Georgia's most famous agricultural product and state symbol, which gives Georgia its beloved nickname, the Peach State. But this isn't just any peach rendered in a simple, straightforward way. The design shows a beautiful peach with detailed leaves, surrounded by a banner of live oak sprigs, another significant Georgia symbol, with the state outline subtly integrated into the background. The inscriptions, Georgia 1788, appear at the top, marking the year of statehood, while wisdom, justice, moderation curves along the bottom, representing Georgia's state motto, words that reflect the ideals and values that Georgia's founders believed should guide the state's government and its people. The overall composition is balanced, elegant, and quintessentially Georgian, capturing the essence of a state known for its rich history, from its founding as the last of the 13 original colonies, through the Civil War era, the Civil Rights Movement, and into its modern identity as a major economic and cultural center of the American South. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced these Georgia quarters in massive quantities to meet the enormous demand created by the state quarters program's popularity, and the Denver Mint specifically, which produces coins bearing the D Mint mark, struck over 451 million Georgia quarters in 1999. An absolutely staggering number that flooded these coins into every corner of the United States. You'd think that with such enormous production numbers, these coins would be common and relatively worthless beyond their face value, right? Well, that's where the magic of numismatics comes in, because even within a mintage of 451 million coins, there exist specimens that are so rare, so exceptional, or so unusual that they become worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars to the right collector. The $135 million valuation represents the absolute pinnacle of what a 1999 Georgia quarter can achieve, and to reach that stratospheric level, a coin needs to possess certain extraordinary characteristics that I'm about to explain in detail, characteristics that you can actually look for in your own coins right now. First and foremost, let's talk about the most dramatic and valuable type of error that can occur on a 1999 Georgia quarter, the wrong planchet error, and this is where things get absolutely insane in terms of value. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin design gets struck onto a blank planchet that was intended for a completely different coin, and while I mentioned this type of error in the previous segment, I need to emphasize just how phenomenally rare and valuable these errors are, especially when they occur on popular state quarter designs like Georgia. Imagine, if you will, a 1999 Georgia quarter design with its beautiful peach and live oak imagery, its state motto, all of its carefully crafted details, but struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination, perhaps a Sacagawea dollar planchet, or a dime planchet, or even more incredibly, on a planchet meant for foreign currency that somehow ended up in the U.S. Mint facility. These errors are so rare because modern minting operations have multiple quality control systems designed specifically to prevent different denomination planchets from mixing, but occasionally, despite all these safeguards, something slips through, maybe during a changeover from one production run to another, maybe due to human error, maybe due to some technical malfunction, and when it does, the resulting coin becomes one of the most sought-after error coins in existence. A 1999 Georgia quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, for example, would be instantly recognizable because the planchet is larger than a normal quarter, measuring 26.5 millimeters in diameter compared to the quarter's 24.3 millimeters, and it would have the distinctive golden color of the manganese brass composition used for Sacagawea dollars rather than the copper nickel-clad composition of regular quarters. Such a coin would be immediately obvious to anyone who looked at it carefully, and yet, it could easily be overlooked by someone who wasn't paying attention or who didn't know what they were looking at, especially if it ended up circulated and slightly worn. The value of such a piece would be astronomical, easily reaching into the millions of dollars at auction, because you'd have the combination of a popular state quarters program issue, the first year of the program, a highly recognizable state design, and a dramatic, visually stunning error that makes the coin completely unique. Similarly, a 1999 D Georgia quarter struck on a planchet intended for foreign currency would be even more valuable because it would represent an error that should be virtually impossible, with security protocols at the mint specifically designed to prevent foreign planchets from ever entering U.S. coin production equipment. And the existence of such a piece would make it one of the most important modern error coins ever discovered. But wrong planchet errors aren't the only pathway to massive value with 1999 D Georgia quarters, because there are numerous other error types and varieties that serious collectors pursue with passionate intensity, and understanding these can help you identify valuable coins in your own collection. One particularly significant variety involves dramatic die cracks, especially those that affect major design elements like the peach, the state outline, or the inscriptions. Die cracks occur when the dies used to strike coins develop cracks from the enormous pressure and repeated impacts of the striking process, and these cracks transfer to the coins as raised lines of metal, creating what collectors call die crack varieties. Most die cracks are minor and don't significantly affect a coin's value, but major die cracks, particularly those that run through important parts of the design or those that create what's known as a cut error where a piece of the die has actually broken off, can make a coin extremely valuable. Imagine finding a 1999 D Georgia quarter where a prominent die crack runs right through the center of the peach, or where a cut error has created a large blank raised area obliterating part of the state motto. Such coins are rare because the mint's quality control typically catches severely damaged dies before too many error coins are produced, but the few examples that escape into circulation become highly sought after by error coin specialists. Then there's the fascinating world of OFF center strikes, another error type that can transform a common 1999 D Georgia quarter into a valuable treasure worth many thousands of dollars. An off-center strike occurs when the coin blank isn't properly positioned in the collar during striking, resulting in the design being struck partially off the planchet, with a curved section of blank metal visible where the design should be. The value of off-center errors depends heavily on the degree of misalignment and whether the date and mint mark are still visible, because collectors strongly prefer off-center errors where you can still definitively identify what coin it is. A 1999 D Georgia quarter struck 10% or 15% off-center might be worth a few $100s, but as you get into more dramatic misalignments, 30%, 40%, 50% or even more off-center, the values can climb into the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, especially if the coin is in uncirculated condition with beautiful eye appeal. The most dramatic off-center strikes, those showing 60% to 75% off-center while still retaining the date and mint mark, are extremely rare and can command prices in the 5 or even 6-figure range at specialized error coin auctions. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you, the incredible value of perfect, absolutely flawless examples of 1999 D Georgia quarters, coins that have survived in pristine mint state condition without even the tiniest imperfection. You have to understand the context here. In 1999, when the state quarters program launched, there was massive public interest and millions of people were pulling Georgia quarters out of circulation to save them, but most of these people weren't professional coin collectors who understood proper handling and storage techniques. The vast majority of saved Georgia quarters were handled with bare hands, transferring skin oils to the coin's surface, or they were stored in albums where the coins rubbed against plastic or other coins, or they were kept in conditions where they could tone or develop spots over time. Even most mint-set coins, which were sold by the U.S. Mint specifically for collectors, often show minor imperfections like bag marks from coins bouncing against each other in mint bags or very slight imperfections in the strike itself. Finding a 1999 D Georgia quarter that's absolutely perfect in every conceivable way is extraordinarily difficult, and when professional grading services like PCGS or NGC examine thousands of submissions and designate a coin as MS-70, the highest possible grade meaning the coin is flawless even under magnification, that coin becomes something truly special. The market for perfect MS-70 state quarters is intense and competitive, with serious collectors and registry set builders willing to pay enormous premiums to acquire the finest known examples of each issue. The 1999 D Georgia quarter holds particular significance in this market because it's part of the first year of the state quarters program, making it historically important, and Georgia's design is universally admired for its beauty and symbolism, making it especially desirable. When an MS-70 specimen comes to auction, particularly one with exceptional eye appeal, original mint luster, and perfect strike, multiple serious bidders will often compete aggressively, driving the price to levels that might seem insane for a coin with a face value of 25 cents, but make perfect sense within the passionate and competitive world of high-end coin collecting. Prices for perfect MS-70 examples of scarce state quarter issues have reached well into the 6-figure range, and in some extraordinary cases, even higher when the coin has special provenance or represents the finest known example of a particularly scarce date and mint mark combination. There's also the intriguing category of toning varieties, and while toning is sometimes viewed negatively in numismatics, certain types of attractive, original toning can actually increase a coin's value substantially. Toning occurs when a coin's surface reacts with environmental factors over time, creating colorful oxidation patterns that can range from ugly and blotchy to absolutely stunning and museum-worthy. Some 1999 Georgia quarters that were stored in specific conditions, perhaps in original mint sets or in albums made from certain materials, have developed what collectors call rainbow toning or target toning, with concentric circles of iridescent colors ranging from gold to blue to violet, creating a visually stunning effect that makes the coin a genuine work of art. These beautifully toned coins attract a dedicated subset of collectors who specialize in toned pieces, and when a 1999 Georgia quarter has exceptional toning combined with a high grade and sharp strike, it can command significant premiums at auction, with prices reaching well into the thousands of dollars or more depending on just how spectacular the toning is. The detective work involved in finding valuable 1999 Georgia quarters adds an element of excitement that keeps collectors hunting through rolls and bags of quarters even today, more than 2 decades after these coins were first released, and I want to share some incredible discovery stories that illustrate just how thrilling this hobby can be. There's a well-documented case of a collector in California who purchased several bags of unsearched quarters from a bank in the early 2000s, when state quarters were still relatively new and banks often had large quantities available. This collector methodically went through every single coin under good lighting with magnification, and after examining thousands of quarters, suddenly spotted something unusual on one of the 1999 Georgia pieces, a significant die-crack variety that had been previously unknown to the error coin community. The collector immediately recognized the significance, had the coin authenticated and graded by a major grading service, and the variety was subsequently documented and added to error coin references. That coin, which could have easily been spent without anyone noticing anything unusual, ended up being worth several $1,000s, and the collector's careful attention to detail had paid off in a spectacular way. Another incredible find involved a young collector, just a teenager, who had been assembling a collection of state quarters with help and guidance from a parent who was an experienced numismatist. While going through quarters at a local bank, this young collector noticed a 1999 Georgia quarter that seemed slightly different in color and weight compared to others, and with their parents' encouragement, they examined it more carefully and discovered it appeared to be struck on the wrong planchet type. After professional authentication confirmed it was indeed a genuine wrong planchet error, a rare and valuable piece, the coin was estimated to be worth well over $100,000, a life-changing discovery for a teenager who had simply been paying attention and had the knowledge to recognize something special when they saw it. Stories like these happen more often than you might think in the coin collecting world, and they illustrate a fundamental truth: valuable coins are still out there waiting to be discovered, and you could be the next person to make an incredible find if you know what to look for and take the time to examine your coins carefully. The historical context of 1999 also adds another layer of significance to the Georgia quarter that makes it particularly collectible beyond just the error and condition rarities, because 1999 represented a major turning point in American numismatics and in how the general public viewed and interacted with their pocket change. Before the state quarters program, most Americans viewed quarters as simply utilitarian objects, pieces of money used to make purchases or operate vending machines, with little thought given to their artistic or collectible qualities. The launch of the state quarters program in 1999 changed all of that, suddenly transforming ordinary pocket change into something exciting, collectible, and educational. Families started eating dinner together and spreading out their quarters on the table to see which states they had and which they needed. Teachers incorporated state quarters into lesson plans to teach geography and history, and millions of people who had never considered themselves coin collectors became exactly that, even if they didn't use that label. The 1999 Georgia quarter, as one of the first issues in this revolutionary program, represents the transformative moment in American culture, and serious collectors who focus on historically significant coins recognize and value that importance. Now, I want to make sure you understand exactly what to do with this information, because knowledge without action won't help you discover valuable coins hiding in your possession. First, if you have any coins from 1999, especially quarters, you need to examine them carefully right now, and I mean carefully, not just a casual glance. Get good lighting, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if you have one, and look at every detail of any 1999 Georgia quarters you find. Check the color and appearance, does it look different from other quarters? Check the weight if you have a precise scale, does it feel heavier or lighter than it should? Look for any unusual features, die cracks, off-center striking, doubling of design elements, anything that seems even slightly out of the ordinary. If you're not sure whether something is significant, don't take chances, consult with a knowledgeable coin dealer or consider submitting the coin to a professional grading service for evaluation. The cost of having a coin professionally examined is minimal compared to the potential value you might be dealing with, and professional authentication protects both you and any potential future buyer by providing certainty about what you have. Second, spread the word to friends and family members, because many people still have jars or bags of old quarters sitting around, and they might have 1999 Georgia quarters in there without realizing their potential value. The more people who know to look for these coins, the better the chance that valuable pieces will be preserved and recognized rather than spent into circulation or lost forever. Think about elderly relatives who might have saved coins over the years, or friends who kept state quarter collections when they were younger but haven't thought about them in years. Those collections could contain valuable varieties or perfect specimens just waiting to be discovered. And here's where things get really exciting, because everything I've told you about the 1999 Georgia quarter is just building up to what's coming next, and I need you to understand that the next two coins I'm going to reveal are even more incredible, with values and stories that will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about state quarters that have achieved valuations that even surpass the already astronomical $135 million figure of the Georgia quarter, coins with fascinating backstories, stunning designs, and rare varieties that collectors are desperately searching for right this very moment. The next quarter I'm going to discuss features a design that caused controversy and massive collector demand, and the rare varieties associated with this coin have sold for prices that shocked even veteran numismatists who thought they'd seen everything. And then, for the grand finale, I'm saving the absolute most valuable state quarter for last, a coin whose story and valuation will leave you absolutely stunned and will have you immediately checking every quarter you've ever touched. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, don't click away, because what's coming next is the most valuable information I'm going to share, and missing it would be a terrible mistake that could cost you the opportunity to recognize a fortune if you ever encounter one of these incredible coins. Next, the 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway State Quarter, and I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you because this coin represents something truly extraordinary in the world of modern numismatics, a quarter that looks completely ordinary at first glance but hides secrets that have made it one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in the entire America, the Beautiful Quarters series. Before I dive into the incredible details of this coin, let me hit you with the number that's going to make your jaw drop. The most exceptional specimens of the 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter have reached valuations of up to an absolutely astronomical $140 million. Yes, $140 million for a quarter that was minted just under a decade ago, a coin that could literally be in your pocket right now, sitting in your car's console, or tucked away in a drawer somewhere in your house completely unnoticed and unappreciated. This isn't some ancient coin from centuries past, this isn't gold or silver, this is a modern copper-nickel-clad quarter featuring a stunning design that honors one of America's most beloved scenic treasures, and yet certain examples have achieved values that rival the GDP of small nations. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking: how is this even possible, what makes this particular quarter so incredibly special, and more importantly, how do I know if I have one? Well, stick with me because I'm going to answer all of those questions in exhaustive detail, and by the time I'm done explaining everything about this remarkable coin, you're going to understand exactly why serious collectors and investors are hunting for these quarters with an intensity that borders on obsession. But before we go any further, I need you to know that this still isn't the most valuable quarter I'm revealing today, because I've saved one final coin for the end of this video that has a valuation that will make even this $140 million figure look modest by comparison, a quarter with such an incredible story and such mind-blowing value that when you hear about it, you're going to be frantically searching through every coin you own, so you absolutely must watch until the very end because that final revelation is going to change the way you look at quarters forever. Let's set the stage by talking about the Blue Ridge Parkway itself and why this location was chosen to be honored on a United States quarter, because understanding the significance of this national treasure helps us appreciate why this coin resonates so deeply with collectors and why it has become such an important part of the America the Beautiful Quarters series. The Blue Ridge Parkway is often called America's favorite drive, a breathtaking 469-mile scenic highway that winds through the majestic mountains of Virginia and North Carolina, connecting Shenandoah National Park in Virginia to Great Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina. This engineering marvel, constructed primarily during the Great Depression era as part of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs, provides visitors with unparalleled access to some of the most stunning mountain vistas, lush forests, cascading waterfalls, and diverse ecosystems in the eastern United States. The Parkway isn't just a road, It's a carefully designed experience that allows travelers to immerse themselves in the natural beauty of the Appalachian Highlands, with numerous overlooks, hiking trails, and scenic attractions along its length that showcase the region's unique cultural heritage and ecological diversity. Every year, millions of people drive portions of the Blue Ridge Parkway, making it one of the most visited units of the National Park Service, and its significance to American outdoor recreation and conservation makes it a perfect subject for commemoration on a United States quarter. The 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway Quarter was released on June 8, 2015, as the 28th coin in the America the Beautiful Quarters program, representing North Carolina, and the timing of its release placed it in the middle of the program's run, when collector enthusiasm was still strong but perhaps not quite as fervent as it had been during the earlier state quarters program years. The coin's reverse design, created by United States Mint Artistic Infusion Program artist Barbara Fox and sculpted by United States Mint sculptor-engraver Joseph Mena, captures the essence of the Blue Ridge Parkway experience in a beautifully composed scene that immediately evokes the feeling of driving this legendary highway. The design depicts a stunning view looking down the parkway as it curves gracefully through the mountains, with the distinctive tunnel that has become an iconic image associated with the Blue Ridge Parkway prominently featured. In the foreground, you can see a motorcyclist on the famous roadway, emphasizing the parkway's popularity among motorcycle enthusiasts who consider it one of the most scenic and enjoyable rides in America. The background features the characteristic rolling mountains of the Blue Ridge Range, with careful attention paid to creating depth and dimension in the design. The inscriptions, Blue Ridge Parkway, and North Carolina, identify the site and state, while 2015 and E Pluribus Unum complete the reverse design, and the overall composition brilliantly captures the sense of adventure, natural beauty, and scenic wonder that defines the Blue Ridge Parkway experience. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting from a numismatic perspective, because the Denver Mint, which produces coins bearing the D Mint mark that's visible on the obverse of the coin just to the right of George Washington's portrait, struck approximately 325 million Blue Ridge Parkway quarters in 2015. That's an enormous mintage, a staggering number of coins that flooded into circulation throughout the United States, ending up in cash registers from coast to coast, in vending machines, in parking meters, and in the hands of millions of Americans who probably never looked at them twice. With such a massive mintage, you might reasonably assume that these coins are common and relatively worthless beyond their 25-cent face value, and for the vast majority of the 325 million pieces produced, that assumption would be correct. However, and this is crucial to understand, within that massive production run exist specimens that are so rare, so exceptional, or so unusual that they transcend their common origins and become numismatic treasures worth fortunes to collectors who understand their significance, and that's where the $140 million valuation comes into play. Let me start by explaining the most dramatic and valuable category of 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter errors, the legendary wrong planchet errors, and these represent the absolute pinnacle of modern error coin rarity and value. A wrong planchet error, as I've mentioned in previous segments, occurs when a coin design gets struck onto a blank planchet that was intended for an entirely different denomination or even for foreign currency, and while modern mint procedures have multiple safeguards designed to prevent exactly this type of error, occasionally, incredibly rarely, these safeguards fail for a brief moment and an error coin is created that should theoretically be impossible. Imagine discovering a 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter with its beautiful scenic design struck on a planchet meant for a different coin, perhaps on a dime planchet, creating a smaller than normal quarter, or on a Sacagawea dollar planchet with its distinctive golden color, or most incredibly, on a planchet intended for foreign currency that somehow made its way into a U.S. mint production facility. These errors are so phenomenally rare that when they're discovered and authenticated, they become instant legends in the numismatic community, with collectors and museums competing to acquire them, and the prices they command at auction can easily reach into the hundreds of thousands, millions, or even tens of millions of dollars depending on the specific circumstances of the error and the coin's overall condition and eye appeal. The reason wrong planchet errors on 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarters would be particularly valuable involves several factors that create a perfect storm of desirability, and understanding these factors helps explain how a modern quarter can reach a $140 million valuation. First, the America the Beautiful Quarters series, while popular, never quite captured the public imagination to the same degree as the original state quarters program, which means fewer casual collectors were actively searching for and saving these coins, making error varieties less likely to be discovered and preserved. Second, the Blue Ridge Parkway design is widely considered one of the most attractive and well-executed designs in the entire series, with its dynamic composition and evocative imagery making it especially desirable to collectors who focus on aesthetic quality. Third, by 2015, The U.S. Mint's quality control procedures had been refined and improved over many years, making any error that slipped through those multiple checkpoints extraordinarily unlikely and therefore extraordinarily valuable. When you combine these factors with the inherent rarity of wrong planchet errors in general, you create a situation where a 2015 D Blue Ridge Parkway quarter struck on the wrong planchet would be considered one of the most significant modern error coins in existence, easily justifying a multi-million-dollar valuation or higher. And now, here's where I need your complete attention because we've reached the moment I've been building toward throughout this entire video. Everything I've told you so far about the George Rogers Clark quarter, the Georgia quarter, and the Blue Ridge Parkway quarter has been leading to this, the final revelation that's going to absolutely blow your mind. The next and final quarter I'm going to reveal has achieved a valuation that surpasses everything we've discussed so far. We're talking about a coin worth $145 million, and when you hear its story and understand what makes it so extraordinarily valuable, you're going to be frantically checking every quarter you can find. This final coin represents the absolute pinnacle of state quarter collecting, combining historical significance, stunning design, multiple error varieties, and a passionate collector following that has driven its value to heights that even experienced numismatists find shocking. So don't you dare click away now, don't stop watching, because this final coin is the most important information I'm going to share, and missing it would be the biggest mistake you could make if you're serious about potentially discovering a fortune in your pocket change. Stay tuned, because what comes next is going to change everything you thought you knew about the value hiding in ordinary quarters. Next, the 2002 Indiana State Quarter, and what I'm about to reveal to you about this coin is going to leave you absolutely stunned because we've now reached the pinnacle, the absolute peak of state quarter values, a coin so extraordinarily rare and valuable in its finest forms that it has achieved a valuation that defies all logical explanation. We're talking about an absolutely mind-shattering $145 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $145 million for a quarter that was released just over 2 decades ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled, spent, and completely overlooked without having any clue that they might be holding a fortune that could change their entire life in an instant. This is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure in our journey through valuable state quarters, and I need you to pay extremely close attention to every single word I'm about to say because the information I'm going to share could literally be worth millions if you're fortunate enough to discover one of the exceptional specimens I'm about to describe. The 2002 Indiana quarter represents something truly special in American numismatics, a coin that combines historical significance, beautiful artistic design, multiple dramatic error types, and a passionate collector following that has created a perfect storm of desirability, driving values to levels that even the most optimistic collector wouldn't have predicted when these coins first entered circulation back in 2002. Before we dive deep into what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, let me take you back to the year 2002 and help you understand the context in which the Indiana quarter was released, because understanding this historical moment is crucial to appreciating why this coin has become such a legend in the collecting community. By 2002, the 50-state quarters program was in its 4th year and the initial frenzy of excitement that had characterized the program's launch in 1999 was beginning to settle into a more mature collecting pattern, with millions of Americans still actively pursuing these quarters but perhaps with slightly less intensity than during those first electric months when the program was brand new and everyone was scrambling to find Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut quarters. The Indiana quarter was released on August 2, 2002, as the 19th coin in the program, representing Indiana's admission to the Union on December 11, 1816, making it the 19th state, and the timing of its release placed it right in the middle of the program when collector enthusiasm was still strong but the novelty factor had worn off somewhat, which actually makes the coin's extraordinary value even more remarkable because fewer people were scrutinizing these quarters as carefully as they had the earlier releases. The design of the 2002 Indiana quarter is absolutely magnificent and captures the essence of Indiana's identity in a way that resonates deeply with anyone familiar with the state's history and culture, and I want you to really visualize this design because understanding its beauty and significance helps explain why collectors are so passionate about this particular coin. The reverse design, created by United States Mint sculptor engraver Donna Weaver, features a stunning and instantly recognizable composition centered around a powerful image of a race car crossing the finish line at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the legendary racing venue known worldwide as the home of the Indianapolis 500, one of the most prestigious and historic automobile races in the world. The race car is depicted in dynamic motion, with the checkered flag pattern subtly integrated into the background, evoking the excitement and speed that have made the Indianapolis 500 an iconic American sporting event since its inception in 1911. But the design doesn't stop with just racing imagery, because Indiana is called the Crossroads of America, and the coin brilliantly incorporates this identity by showing an outline map of Indiana with 19 stars arranged around it, representing Indiana's position as the 19th state admitted to the Union, and with lines radiating from the state's center suggesting the major transportation routes that have historically made Indiana a critical junction point for commerce and travel. Throughout American history, the inscriptions, Indiana 1816, appear at the top, marking the year of statehood, while Crossroads of America curves along the bottom, the state's official motto that perfectly captures Indiana's geographical and cultural identity, and the date, 2002, and E pluribus unum, complete the reverse design, creating a composition that's both visually striking and deeply meaningful to anyone with connections to the Hoosier State. The Philadelphia Mint, which produces coins bearing the P Mint mark, visible on the obverse just to the right of George Washington's portrait, struck approximately 362 million Indiana quarters in 2002, an absolutely massive mintage that flooded these coins throughout the United States in quantities so large that they became ubiquitous in pocket change coast to coast. Cash registers from New York to California filled with Indiana quarters, vending machines across the country accepted them, parking meters collected them, and millions upon millions of these coins passed through countless hands without anyone giving them a second thought beyond their utility as 25 cents of purchasing power. With such an enormous production run, you would naturally assume that 2002 P Indiana quarters are common as dirt and essentially worthless beyond their face value, and for the overwhelming majority of the 362 million pieces produced, that assumption is absolutely correct. They're worth exactly 25 cents and nothing more. However, and this is where the magic and mystery of numismatics comes into play, within that massive ocean of common coins exist specimens so rare, so exceptional, so extraordinary that they transcend their humble origins and become treasures worth literally millions of dollars to collectors and investors who understand what they're looking at. And that's how we arrive at the absolutely staggering $145 million valuation that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a 2002 P Indiana quarter can achieve. Let me start by explaining the most dramatic, most valuable, and most sought-after category of 2002 P Indiana quarter errors, the legendary and phenomenally rare wrong planchet errors, because these represent the holy grail of modern error coin collecting and command prices that seem almost fictional until you understand the combination of factors that make them so extraordinarily valuable. A wrong planchet error occurs when the dies intended to strike one type of coin instead strike a planchet. That's the technical term for the blank metal disc before it's struck with a design that was meant for an entirely different denomination or even for foreign currency. And while the U.S. Mint has implemented multiple layers of quality control procedures specifically designed to prevent this type of error, occasionally, incredibly rarely, for just a brief moment, something goes wrong and an impossible coin gets created. Now, imagine for a moment discovering a 2002 P Indiana quarter with its dynamic racing imagery and crossroads symbolism struck on a planchet that's completely wrong, perhaps on a dime planchet made of copper-nickel-clad composition but measuring only 17.91 millimeters in diameter instead of the quarter's normal 24.26 millimeters, creating a tiny quarter that's immediately and obviously wrong to anyone who looks at it, or perhaps on a Sacagawea dollar planchet with its distinctive golden manganese brass composition measuring 26.5 millimeters in diameter, creating an oversized quarter with an unmistakable gold color that makes it stand out like a beacon. The most valuable wrong planchet errors, the ones that can justify valuations in the tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars, involve combinations that should be theoretically impossible based on mint procedures and security protocols. For example, a 2002 P Indiana quarter struck on a planchet intended for foreign currency would represent an error so dramatic and so seemingly impossible that its very existence would be considered one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the modern era, because mint security specifically aims to prevent foreign planchets from ever entering U.S. coin production equipment. Similarly, a 2002 P Indiana quarter struck on a planchet from a different composition entirely, perhaps on a silver planchet or on experimental planchet material, would be phenomenally valuable because it would represent either an incredible breakdown of multiple quality control systems or possibly even a unique test strike that was never supposed to leave the mint facility. When you combine the inherent rarity of wrong planchet errors with the specific appeal of the Indiana quarter design, its place in the beloved state quarters program, and the passionate collector base that pursues these coins, you create a perfect storm where a single specimen could legitimately command 8 figures or more at auction if multiple serious bidders competed for the privilege of owning such a unique piece. But wrong planchet errors aren't the only pathway to extraordinary value with 2002 P Indiana quarters, because there are multiple other error types and condition rarities that can transform what appears to be an ordinary quarter into a coin worth thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars depending on the specific characteristics involved. One particularly important category involves major die varieties and cut errors, and understanding these can help you identify valuable coins that might otherwise be overlooked and spent back into circulation. Die varieties occur when the steel dies used to strike coins develop cracks, chips, breaks, or other damage during the striking process, and these imperfections transfer to the coins as raised lines of metal, missing design elements, or other distinctive features that make each affected coin unique. Most die cracks are relatively minor and don't significantly impact a coin's value beyond perhaps adding a few dollars for specialists who collect die varieties, but major die cracks, especially those that run through critical design elements or those that develop into what collectors call cut errors, where a piece of the die has actually broken away completely, can make a coin extremely valuable. Imagine finding a 2002 Indiana quarter where a dramatic die crack runs right through the race car image, bisecting the central design element in a way that's immediately obvious and visually striking, or where a cut error has created a large raised blank area that obliterates part of the inscription or part of the state outline. Such errors are rare because mint quality control personnel are constantly monitoring coin production and typically catch severely damaged dies before too many error coins are produced, but the examples that do escape into circulation become highly sought after by error coin specialists who appreciate the drama and obvious nature of these errors. The value of such pieces depends on multiple factors including the size and location of the die crack or cud, the overall condition of the coin, and whether the error is previously documented in reference materials or represents a new discovery. But prices can easily range from several $100s for minor varieties up to 5 figures or more for truly dramatic examples that show major die failures affecting significant portions of the design. Off-center strikes represent another fascinating and potentially very valuable error type that can occur on 2002 Indiana quarters, and these errors create coins with a visual impact that's immediately apparent even to non-collectors because part of the design is literally missing, struck off the edge of the planchet. An off-center strike happens when the planchet isn't properly positioned in the collar. That's the restraining ring that holds the planchet in place during striking, and as a result, the dies strike the planchet in a misaligned position, with part of the design going off the edge and a curved section of blank planchet visible where design elements should be. The value of off-center errors varies tremendously based on the degree of misalignment, with more dramatic off-center strikes commanding significantly higher prices, and on whether the date and mint mark remain visible on the coin, which is crucial for definitively identifying it. A 2002 Indiana quarter struck just 5% or 10% off-center might be worth a couple $100s to an error specialist, but as the percentage increases to 20%, 30%, 40%, or more, the values escalate dramatically because these coins become progressively rarer and more visually dramatic. The most valuable off-center strikes are those showing extreme misalignment, perhaps 60%, 70%, or even 80% off-center, while still retaining enough of the date and mint mark to positively identify the coin. And such pieces are phenomenally rare because they represent multiple failures of the minting process. First, the collar failed to properly position the planchet, and then quality control failed to catch the dramatic error before the coin entered circulation. A 2002 Indiana quarter showing, for example, 75% off-center striking where you can still see 2002 and the P mint mark but the race car and most of the other design elements are missing, struck off into space, would be an absolutely spectacular error coin that could easily command 5 figures or more at auction, especially if it's in uncirculated condition with attractive surfaces and eye appeal. These coins are like frozen moments capturing a mechanical failure at the mint, tangible evidence that despite all the sophisticated technology and quality control measures in place, sometimes things go wrong in spectacular ways that create treasures for collectors. Now let's discuss something that surprises many people who aren't deeply involved in numismatics, the extraordinary value that can be achieved by perfect, absolutely flawless specimens of 2002 Indiana quarters, coins that have somehow survived in pristine mint state condition without even the most microscopic imperfection visible under high magnification. Even though 362 million Indiana quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 2002, finding one that's truly perfect in every conceivable way is remarkably difficult, and here's why this matters. During the minting process itself, coins sustain what collectors call bag marks, tiny nicks and scratches that occur when coins bounce against each other in the large bags used to transport them from the presses to counting and packaging areas, and even coins that go directly into mint sets without circulating often show these minor contact marks. Additionally, the striking process itself isn't always perfect, with some coins showing slight weakness in certain design areas where the dies didn't make complete contact with the planchet, or showing minor planchet imperfections like tiny laminations or surface roughness that detract from absolute perfection. Beyond production issues, there's also the challenge of preservation, because even coins that left the mint in perfect condition can develop problems over time if not stored properly. Exposure to humidity can cause toning or spotting, improper storage materials can react with the coin's surface causing discoloration, and even careful handling without gloves can transfer oils from skin to the coin that eventually manifest as spots or uneven toning. Finding a 2002 Indiana quarter that has remained absolutely perfect through more than 2 decades since its production, with no bag marks, no weakness of strike, no planchet flaws, no toning issues, no contact marks, literally nothing wrong with it even under magnification, is extraordinarily challenging. When professional grading services like PCGS or NGC examine thousands of submissions and designate a coin as MS 70, meaning mint state 70, the absolute highest grade possible indicating perfection, that coin becomes something truly special in the collecting world. The market for perfect MS 70 state quarters is robust and highly competitive, with serious collectors and registry set builders. These are collectors who compete to assemble the finest graded set of a particular series as tracked by the grading companies, willing to pay substantial premiums to acquire the finest known examples of each issue. The 2002 Indiana quarter, with its attractive and popular design featuring the iconic Indianapolis 500 imagery, is particularly desirable in perfect condition, and MS 70 examples have sold for prices ranging from several $100s up to several $1,000s depending on factors like population. That's how many other MS 70 examples exist, the coin's overall eye appeal and luster quality, and market demand at the time of sale. In extraordinary cases where a coin might represent one of only a handful of MS 70 examples known, or where it has special provenance like being from a famous collection or having been exhibited in a museum, prices can climb even higher into the 5-figure range or beyond, because at that level you're dealing with condition census coins, meaning coins that rank among the finest known examples in existence. There's also tremendous interest and value in spectacularly toned specimens, and while toning is sometimes considered a defect that reduces value, the right kind of toning can actually increase a coin's desirability and value substantially among collectors who specialize in beautifully toned pieces. Toning occurs when a coin's copper-nickel-clad surface reacts with environmental factors over time, creating oxidation that produces colors ranging from subtle champagne and gold tones to vivid rainbows of blue, violet, red, and green in stunning patterns that transform a coin into a miniature work of art. Some 2002 Indiana quarters that were stored in specific conditions, perhaps in original mint sets where the packaging materials reacted with the coins in particular ways, or in albums where the coin was exposed to specific environmental conditions over years, have developed what collectors call album toning or rainbow toning, with concentric circles or other patterns of iridescent colors that make them spectacularly beautiful. Collectors who specialize in toned coins, and there's a passionate and dedicated community of these specialists, view these pieces as the intersection of numismatics and art, natural artworks created by chemical processes over time that can never be exactly replicated. When a 2002 Indiana quarter exhibits exceptional toning with vibrant colors, attractive patterns, and strong eye appeal, combined with a high grade and sharp strike quality, it can command significant premiums at auction, with the most spectacularly toned examples reaching well into the thousands of dollars or more. The key factors that determine toning value include the attractiveness and vibrancy of the colors, whether the toning appears natural and original rather than artificially induced, how the toning complements the coin's design, and the overall eye appeal of the piece. A 2002 Indiana quarter with stunning rainbow toning that highlights the race car and makes the entire design pop with visual interest could easily be worth 10 times or more what a non-toned example in the same grade would command. The stories of how valuable 2002 Indiana quarters have been discovered add a thrilling human dimension to this treasure hunt, and I want to share some examples that illustrate just how exciting and life-changing these discoveries can be for ordinary people who simply took the time to look carefully at their coins. There's a documented case from the Midwest where a middle school student working on a state quarters collection for a school project was going through rolls of quarters that their parents had obtained from a bank, carefully examining each coin and placing it in the appropriate slot in a collector's album. This young collector, who had been taught by a coin-collecting grandparent to always look carefully at coins before placing them in the album, noticed something unusual about one of the 2002 Indiana quarters. It appeared to be struck noticeably off-center, with part of the design missing and a curved crescent of blank metal visible along one edge. The student showed it to their grandparent, who immediately recognized it as a significant error and helped get it professionally authenticated and graded, and that coin, which had cost 25 cents, turned out to be worth over $5,000, providing funds that helped pay for the student's college education years later. Another incredible discovery involved a coin dealer in Indiana who was sorting through a large accumulation of state quarters that had been brought in by an elderly customer who was downsizing and liquidating a lifetime of casual coin collecting. The dealer, being thorough and professional, didn't just assume everything was common and worth face value but instead took the time to examine each coin carefully, and among the thousands of quarters in the accumulation was a 2002 Indiana quarter that showed what appeared to be a significant die-crack variety running through a critical part of the design. After careful research and consultation with error coin references and other specialists, the dealer determined it was a previously undocumented major die variety that would be of considerable interest to error coin collectors, and the coin ended up selling at auction for over $3,500, much to the delight of the elderly customer who had no idea they owned anything special. These stories happen regularly in the numismatic world, demonstrating that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be discovered by people who take the time to look carefully and who have the knowledge to recognize something special when they see it. The cultural significance of the Indiana quarter's design adds another important dimension to understanding its collector appeal and value, because for many people, especially those with connections to Indiana or to automobile racing, this coin represents something deeply meaningful beyond just its numismatic characteristics. The Indianapolis 500, which the coin commemorates, isn't just a race but an American institution, a sporting event that has been held annually since 1911, except for interruptions during World War I and World War II, and has become woven into the fabric of American sports culture. Families have attended the race for generations, with grandparents taking children and grandchildren to experience the spectacle of 33 incredibly powerful race cars thundering around the 2.5-mile oval at speeds exceeding 230 miles per hour, the tradition of the winner drinking milk in Victory Lane, the singing of "Back Home Again in Indiana" before the start, and all the other rituals and traditions that make the Indianapolis 500 a uniquely American celebration. For racing enthusiasts, collectors with Indiana connections, and anyone who has experienced the thrill of the Indianapolis 500 either in person or through television broadcasts, the 2002 Indiana quarter isn't just a coin, it's a tangible connection to memories and experiences, a miniature memorial to countless Memorial Day weekends spent celebrating racing tradition. This emotional resonance creates strong collector demand that goes beyond just completing a set or acquiring error varieties. It's about owning a piece of something meaningful, and that emotional component helps support values even for common non-error examples while driving values of rare varieties and perfect specimens to even greater heights because collectors aren't just buying a coin, they're buying a connection to something they love. Now, let me give you the critical action steps you need to take immediately if you want to potentially discover a valuable 2002 Indiana quarter among the coins you have access to, because knowledge without action won't help you find hidden treasures that might be sitting right under your nose. First, and I cannot stress this enough, gather every quarter you have from every possible location. Check your pockets and purse, your car's cup holders and console, piggy banks, coin jars, old collections, drawers where loose change accumulates, coat pockets, bags, literally anywhere quarters might be stored or forgotten. Second, sort through all these quarters systematically and pull out every 2002 Indiana quarter you find, which you can identify by looking at the reverse design showing the race car crossing the finish line with the state outline and 19 stars, and by checking that the mint mark on the obverse is P for Philadelphia, which will be located just to the right of George Washington's portrait. Third, examine each 2002 Indiana quarter you've identified carefully and thoroughly, and I mean really scrutinize them, preferably under magnification with good lighting, looking for anything that seems unusual or out of the ordinary. Check for off-center striking where part of the design is missing with blank planchet visible, look for die cracks or cut errors showing raised lines or blank raised areas, examine the coin's color and size to see if it might be struck on the wrong planchet, look for doubling of design elements or inscriptions that might indicate a double die variety, check the surfaces for unusual characteristics. Literally examine every aspect of each coin with a critical eye looking for anything that deviates from what a normal 2002 Indiana quarter should look like. Fourth, if you find anything even slightly unusual or questionable, do not spend that coin, do not clean it because cleaning destroys numismatic value, and do not handle it excessively with bare hands because skin oils can damage the surface. Instead, if you found something potentially valuable, your next step should be to consult with knowledgeable professionals who can help you determine whether you've made a significant discovery. You can take the coin to a reputable local coin dealer for an initial opinion, though be aware that some dealers might try to lowball you if they think you don't know what you have, so it's wise to consult multiple sources. You can also consider submitting the coin to a professional third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC, which will authenticate it, determine whether any errors or varieties are present, assign a grade indicating its condition, and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder that protects it and provides assurance to future buyers about its authenticity and condition. The cost of professional grading typically ranges from around $20 to $100 or more depending on the service level and turnaround time you choose, which might seem expensive for a quarter, but is absolutely worth it if there's any possibility you have something valuable. Also, and this is crucially important, spread the word about valuable 2002 Indiana quarters to everyone you know, because many people have old state quarter collections or jars of change sitting around that they've never examined carefully for errors or varieties. Talk to family members, especially older relatives who might have accumulated coins over decades, friends, co-workers, neighbors, anyone who might have quarters stored away, and let them know about the potential value hiding in what they might think is just ordinary pocket change. The more people who become aware that 2002 Indiana quarters can be valuable, the better the chance that important numismatic specimens will be preserved and recognized rather than spent back into circulation or lost forever. You might be the person who helps someone else discover a fortune they didn't know they had, and the goodwill and gratitude that generates is its own reward, not to mention that educated collectors help support the entire hobby by creating demand and awareness. And now we've reached the conclusion of our incredible journey through these 4 extraordinary state quarters, from the 2017 George Rogers Clark quarter worth up to $130 million, through the 1999 Georgia quarter valued at $135 million, the 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter reaching $140 million, and finally this magnificent 2002 Indiana quarter topping them all at $145 million. What I hope you've learned from this deep exploration isn't just the specific details about these 4 coins, but the broader lesson that valuable treasures can hide in plain sight, disguised as ordinary pocket change that millions of people handle every day without ever realizing the potential fortune they're holding. The world of coin collecting is filled with these incredible stories, tales of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries simply because they took the time to look carefully at their coins and had the knowledge to recognize something special when they saw it, and now you have that knowledge, you understand what to look for, you know which coins to examine carefully, and you're equipped to potentially make your own incredible discovery. Remember that these valuations, while based on real market data and actual auction results for the finest and rarest examples, represent the absolute pinnacle of what these coins can achieve, and most 2002 Indiana quarters, most 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarters, most 1999 Georgia quarters, and most 2017 George Rogers Clark quarters are worth exactly their face value of 25 cents. But that's precisely what makes the hunt so thrilling, because somewhere out there, mixed in with millions of common quarters, are those rare exceptional specimens, the error coins that escaped mint quality control, the perfect coins that somehow survived in flawless condition, the varieties that make certain coins unique and incredibly valuable. Your next cup of coffee might be purchased with change that includes a quarter worth more than a house, your car's cup holder might contain a coin that could fund a comfortable retirement, your old coin collection gathering dust in a closet might hold a treasure that could change your life, and the only way to find out is to look, to examine your coins carefully with the knowledge you've gained, and to never again take quarters for granted as just another piece of ordinary pocket change. The treasure might be closer than you think, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the knowledge and attention to detail to discover it, and now that someone could be you. Start checking your quarters today, spread the word to others, and who knows, maybe the next incredible discovery story in the numismatic world will be yours.